Hello everyone, or welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. Back from holiday, had a wonderful time. Sorry I didn't get to talk about the Brentford game. I did manage to watch it, however after that we were due to go out on a trip, and then after that it just kind of didn't seem worth talking about it. But in a nutshell, you know, some really positive things. Difficult place to go. We're going to be talking about the Manchester United game today, but just briefly over the Brentford one. You know, there's a lot to still be worked on, and anyone that thought we were going to have instant success, it was never going to happen. But actually a point against them in the first game of the season at their place is actually a very good point, all things considered. And then obviously, you know, we've had a lovely victory at home against Manchester United, Ange's first game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that's what we're talking about today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Support the video with a like, and as always, leave your comments below. So let's talk a little bit about the way we played. It was a little bit slow to start with, a little bit shaky, something we're familiar at seeing at Spurs. However, in a different way. It's because we're adapting to a new system rather than just being slow out the block. I think once everybody's fully confident with the way we're playing and the system, we will start games a lot quicker and a lot more confidently. Overall though, some of the football that we played was absolutely excellent. There's little relationships forming between players over the pitch. Dembele has finally been replaced. Moussa Dembele is now reincarnated in the forward of Yves Bissouma, who is nothing short of excellent. Pape Matar Sarr, what a player he's looking, you know. And these are two players that Conte pretty much came out and said tactically couldn't play his system, and you know, needed a lot more time. Clearly they didn't. They just needed a different manager with a system that suited them to unleash them, because both of them were excellent. So let's talk about the players as a whole. So Vicario in goal. I know I said to people that have been moaning about him, you need to have patience. He'd be tested more against Manchester United, and he was. He saved well from Rashford 12 minutes in as he rushed out to the United attacker. He then made an excellent reflex save to push over Casemiro's point-blank header. He looked very calm and collected in everything he did, and made another superb tip over the bar late on from Varane. So all in all, I think from him a very good performance. He definitely stepped up in this game. At times really saved us, because as I said, in the first half we weren't great. We actually deserved to be behind, and sometimes you got to win ugly. We didn't win ugly in the end. We actually won in a very flattering manner. But after the first half, you know, our last ditch defending was actually very good. So Porro in for Emerson Royale. I think we're going to see a lot of rotation between these two as the season goes on. So he struck the angle of the crossbar and the right hand post with a shot late in the second half. There were doubts about his defending ahead of the game, but he dealt with pretty much everything down his side perfectly. His best defensive performance for the club by far. And then on the other side, Udogie gets the nod again. You know, for a 20-year-old, for a 20-year-old, he is forming a really good relationship with Sonny down the left. He's playing really well, confident. You know, he had a couple of efforts on goal after being put through by the South Korean star. Came off with 20 minutes to go for Davies just to help shore the game up. But I'm really, really impressed with what I'm seeing from him so far. Moving into the central positions, Romero and Mickey van der Ven got the nod again. So Romero back after his clash of heads. He had a VAR check against him for a potential handball in our box in the first half with nothing given. Otherwise, he was pretty imperious at the back and played some lovely passes out to the flanks. So the reason why the handball wasn't given is because the shot was taken clearly before the tackle came in, so there was no influence on Romero's pressure or tackle to the shot whatsoever. Then moving on to Mickey van der Ven, he looked a little bit nervy in the early stages. He lost Fernandes behind him for a big chance for United in the first half. However, he grew into the game, and a couple of passes past United's attackers showed that. Amazing to think that he's only 22 and has been at the club for just over a week, and has been thrust into the centre of a previously struggling defence in 2 big opening matches, and has helped raise the level. So looking good from him as well. Moving into the midfield, Pape Matar Sarr. What can I say? Performer of the day. Also another 20-year-old alongside Udogie. He had such a big performance for such a young midfielder. Had a good run and had a shot saved by Onana around the half-hour mark, and then scored his first goal for Tottenham with a controlled volley, controlled half volley from Kulusevski's deflected cross, launched into plenty of booming perfect tackles, and came off with 15 minutes to go for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Bizuma, I'm just going to move this camera around because that sunlight is annoying me. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, so his partner of destruction, Yves Bissouma, another impressive display, and at times United just couldn't get near him. He's going to be a real game changer for us this season. Yeah, and now he's been completely unleashed and able to roam the pitch and do what he does best. The guy is great in possession. He's almost impossible to get the ball off, as I said, reminiscent of Moussa Dembele. Then James Maddison, our creative hub at the moment. He went on a mazy dribble through the centre of the pitch, which resulted in Sarr's first half chance. Everything Spurs did well pretty much came through him at some point, and he sprayed the ball out wide to Perisic in the build up to the second goal. He's going to be a massive player. I know we've got a bit to talk about the fact that he came off. He is having a scan today to make sure that everything's okay. The boot, we're told, was precautionary. But look, Maddison, the thing I love about him, he's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do with it. Sometimes he'll play a pass, he'll play a little flick around the corner. Sometimes he'll dribble. His footwork is immense. So yeah, great from him. Then moving on to the front three, Kulusevski, hesitant in some attacking moments in the first half, had a shot saved by Onana comfortably. His deflected cross that was fired home by Sarr, and he got better as the game wore on, and United struggled to pick up his runs. Then Richarlison through the middle, plenty of thankless running and holding the ball up. Didn't get much in the way of chances though, and I think that's something that we're going to see until they kind of learn the way Richarlison runs. And there's still people moaning about him saying we need a better striker, and yes, we do need another striker. However, Richarlison's role, and it's a strange one because you think as a striker his role is to score goals. Oh my god, this sun, honestly. There we go. Richarlison's role is just to do tireless work in and let others play around him. He's pulling defenders all over the place. He's making great runs. If he runs into space, and a defender follows him, it then creates space for another player. So don't worry if he's not scoring goals. As long as we're winning games, that is all that matters. Then he's doing his job. Then the captain, Sonny, used all of his experience down the left flank to try and pull the United defence across. Linked up really well, as I said, with Udogie and Maddison. And then he went into the centre after Richarlison was substituted off, which Richarlison wasn't too happy with, but as we've said before, he's an emotional guy. So moving on to the substitutes, Ben Davies came on and provided a solid performance, as well as getting up the pitch to provide the touch that forced Martinez to knock the ball into his own net. Perisic came on as well, put Davies through in the build-up to the second goal, and again showed his quality. Højbjerg replaced Sarr, worked hard in the centre of the pitch using his experience to mop up moments of the remaining time and getting the ball moving quickly. Solomon came on in the final moments to stretch the United defence. Actually had a good bit of play with Bizuma. You might have seen it on Tottenham's Instagram page. Bizuma goes on this mazy run, does a lovely trick pass to Solomon, and Solomon then returns the favour himself. And Emerson Royale came on late to replace Porro to bring on some fresh legs. So all in all, pretty good performance. We're starting to see relationships building. The subs are coming off the bench and doing exactly what they need to do in terms of helping solidify the games. Moving on to what Ange was talking about. He was asked, what did you make of the performance today and the atmosphere? Said the atmosphere was incredible. Our supporters were outstanding today. The energy they created in the stadium right from the first whistle was brilliant. To be honest, I thought it helped us in the first half. We just looked a bit nervous and edgy for about half hour or so, and we're probably fortunate to still be in the game. We were giving the ball away cheaply and just letting them come at us. At the same time, it's not surprising, a couple of 20-year-olds out there, a 22-year-old and a couple of 23-year-olds. It's a really young team we're putting out there, so I thought there were some really encouraging signs towards the end of the first half for 5 or 10 minutes. We got them in at half-time, settled them down a bit, and then I thought the boys were brilliant. They came out with a great energy, took the game to Manchester United, scored a good goal, and didn't stop from there. They had to defend, but we did that well. Vic pulled up a couple of good saves, so encouraging signs there. He was asked, you mentioned some young players, just how impressive was Pap Matassar, a 20-year-old in that pressure and atmosphere to put in that kind of performance? He replied with, yeah, brilliant. He's been in great form. He's been great from the moment I arrived. He's got a great energy about him. He's got quality there too. He's one of those midfielders who causes the opposition real problems, because whether it's him running with the ball or without the ball, he runs forward, he runs aggressively, and he disrupts the opposition. He's just got a great temperament for a young guy, so really pleased for him. You said yesterday you wanted to not only win the game but put in a performance. How much did you think you did that in the second half? So I thought there were encouraging signs there. I don't think it was a victory of the back of a backs to the wall desperate performance. I thought there were elements, especially in the second half, where we showed the kind of team we want to be, and that's what we're looking for. I'm not silly enough to think that in 2 weeks into the season, 6 or so weeks into my tenure, that we're going to be putting in complete performances, but what you want to see is some sprouts of growth in terms of the team we want to be, and I definitely saw that. A real resilience too. We had to show that in the first game as well, with things that went against us. Today we could have gone into our shells in the second half, but if anything, we got more brave and more courageous with our football, and we got our rewards. He was asked a little bit about fitness and mentality. He said it's just sometimes the nature of the games, the way they flow. Different games. I just thought today we were just edgy in the first half. We weren't doing the simple things, and it's human nature. The boys were just trying really hard to impress and probably overcomplicating the game, and once they simplified the game, there were obvious areas that we could hurt them. They got to grips with that and committed in the second half. When you made the team decisions, leaving experienced players on the bench and putting young players in the team, is it just a feeling you've got or the way you want to go? He said, I like to think I know what I'm doing, mate, especially in the early stages. Part of what I need to do at the moment is explore the squad and the individuals within it. It would be silly of me to stick with the same sort of formula in terms of team lineup, because unless I expose some of these guys to this level and trying to play our football, I won't find out about them. So it would have been very easy not to make any changes. The guys who dropped out, Emerson and Skippy, didn't do anything wrong last week. They put in great efforts, but I wanted to see Pap and I wanted to see Pedro. There are others I want to see and I will use without disrupting the cohesion of the team. But this clearly, but this early bit is an opportunity for me to see guys out there and give them a taste of it as well. That then feeds into their development. If they're out there and they can see they can do it, then it gives us more personnel to work with moving forward. Now, the thing I like that is he's basically saying that, you know, he's made these changes just to see these other players, and he's taking big risks, but he's obviously confident in what they can do, because, you know, you've allowed these players to come in against Manchester United, so you've gone with, you know, what we all thought was his preferred lineup, and then he's thrust Pedro Porro into a harder game potentially than what we would have seen Emerson Royale have to play. So by putting him under even more pressure, Porro, he's had to really dig deep to make sure he puts in a good performance. So then it was on to, you know, just a bits about the crowd singing his name and stuff, and we've heard him, you know, talk about that before. He doesn't feel at the moment he really deserves it until he really proves himself in the Premier League and delivers for us. He was then asked, was it important to win and entertain? There were 39 shots overall today. He said, look, I'd prefer if more of the 39 were down our end than the opposition. We don't design and say the opposition will create chances, but it's part of it. It's a consequence of how we want to play, and particularly at the moment where it's fair to say it's not really embedded in us as a group. So it will leave us susceptible at times to the opposition attacking us. Again, I thought you don't want it to happen by design, but it was great for Cario. Made a couple of brilliant saves today just for his confidence, and I think that is really important, because if he's not facing anything, he doesn't really know what he can do in the situations where he has to face those things. So it is great to see him having early things to do, although we would much prefer us not to be in those moments. But I suppose he's not going to get any better if he doesn't have shots fired in at him. You had your fullbacks running into the box, leaving 2 versus 2 at the back. Contrast to the last few years, do you have to convince the players? We said, look, you never know. There are probably elements at the moment that they're doing because I'm telling them to. But there's been enough in the first 2 games for me to see they want to do it themselves. There's been plenty of opportunities in both games for us to veer away from that. At this early stage, it would be understandable. I said last week we scored after 10 minutes, and then we lose our most experienced defender in a young defensive line. Then we get a penalty and an own goal against us. So it would have been very easy for that group to say it's not working. There's a wasp there. Hello. That it's not working, and it was the same time. Look, we were nervy, gave the ball away at the start, and plenty of opportunity for us to stop playing and go long, be more direct. Even at 2-0, we didn't sit back. We still pressed the goalkeeper, still tried to be aggressive. So that tells me some of it's fueled by them. It is not just because I'm telling them to do it, which is great, because ultimately, if we're gonna get where we want to, it has to be driven by the players. They have to believe in it, understand it, and my role on the coaches is to keep giving them the guidance and information. It's great. So he was then asked, you took a moment of full time in the centre circle, what were you thinking? He responded, like I said, you want to feel the moment, because I've always said, to me, I love what football does to people, particularly in those moments. So you kind of take a moment to think about the 60,000 here, or the ones who were watching at home, because they were smiling for the rest of the week, or they will be smiling for the rest of the week. I love that it does that. For me, that moment is about appreciating. I'm pretty blessed to be doing what I'm doing, for being in the middle of a stadium, leading a fantastic football club, and then you start to think about next week, mate. So that he's already on it. He's like, done this week, got that out of the way, we need to move on to the next. We need to be thinking about that. And it was a lovely moment actually seeing him in the middle of the stadium. So yeah, he took a moment in the centre of the circle after the final whistle. He was just looking around the stadium and taking it all in as the fans revelled in the football and the victory that the team served up. He then walked around and applauded all of them after the memorable first Premier League match for him at the stadium. And then he suddenly spotted his family in the crowd, and just for a moment let his guard down completely. He was waving at them and then punched his fist in the air with the biggest grin on his face. So on a personal level, while it's only the beginning for him and Spurs, winning his first Premier League home match against United, he faced them with his South Melbourne side 23 years ago. So it was a symbolic moment in a long coaching career, during which he's had to battle more than most to earn his journey across the world to arrive in this biggest league. It also extended a remarkable unbeaten record in home league games to 49 across his time at Yokohama, F. Marinos, Celtic and now Spurs. So he's won 41 of those matches and drawn 8. His last home league defeat was back in November 2020 with Yokohama against Kashima Antlers in the J1 League. That's a hell of a record. So that, looking at the record, there's no surprise that we went out there and produced a massive performance at home against somebody that I feel under Ten Hag's stewardship has just gone from strength to strength. For the Tottenham fans, Postecoglou had just done something unthinkable in recent seasons. His team had entertained them. The brand of football isn't even half ingrained in the players yet, but this performance, particularly in the second half, it was exhilarating, exhausting. It left everyone with a delirious smile on their face when it was finally done. First half, nervy moments. We rode our luck. But just to have a look at it, 427 passes we made in that game. 85% of them were successful. We were just under 100. We had just under 100 more passes than Manchester United, who only had 44% of the possession. United did have more shots though, 22 to our 17, but with both sides getting 6 on target, we were more clinical, and Vicario dispelling draft premature judgments of him with a dominant display. Ahead of the game, around 300 Spurs fans did actually gather outside the stadium. It was the demonstration organised by the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust against the increase in matchday ticket prices, with families and individuals finding themselves increasingly priced out of attending games of the club they love. Now, Postecoglou was actually asked about this in an interview, and he kind of he had to really, because he's employed by Spurs. He gave an answer where he completely avoided talking about the ticket prices and basically said that he needs to, you know, bring us a brand of football that makes us want to come to the stadium. He's employed by Spurs. There's no way he's going to say the rising ticket prices are unfair, because that is bringing disrepute to Tottenham, and that's actually a sackable offence. So the Trust, they've always made it clear they'd protest outside the stadium but support the team fully inside it, and that's exactly what they did. 61,910 strong crowd delivered the best atmosphere within the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium since the North London derby victory a couple of seasons before. You know, the place was absolutely rocking from start to finish, and that was just from me hearing it, watching it. So I can only imagine how deafening it was in the stadium, with the drummer back, the South Stand fully rocking, everyone behind. So, you know, enjoyment has been an emotion in short supply when it comes to, you know, Tottenham in recent years. But Postecoglou has given the club, you know, a figurehead. Go away. Has given them a figurehead the fans can believe in again amid the chaos and drama that has preceded him. Just over a week since we sold our greatest ever goal scorer in Harry Kane, who would have imagined such a scene of togetherness and happiness around another man? Kane has always been the person the fans and the club looked to carry him. You know, he was the shoulders of the club. Now Postecoglou is more than willing to bear that load, and it's pretty impressive, you know, for us to lose Kane and then go on and, you know, pull out such a performance against Manchester United. The players have really, really stepped up in this moment. So I'm going to leave that there for that video. I think I've got a whole section that I want to do on the midfield, basically Pat Matasar, the midfield, and Maddison. You know, I think that's important. That probably needs at least half a video on that. So I'll leave that here. We're going to talk about Pat, Bazuma, Maddison another time. And then what else have I got in my notes here? We will talk about Vicario, Porro, and the rest of the defence as well. I'll probably make another video tonight. So, you know, this one will be going out, and then I'll do a little video on the tweaks that are going to be needed in a busy transfer window finale. So yeah, thanks for sticking around for that one. We've had a talk about the game, spoke about the players, a little bit about Ange Postecoglou, and yeah, much more to come. So thanks for sticking around for that. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and until next time, come on you Spurs.